Welcome back to Align Yourself podcast. I'm your host, Ebony, and today I'm joined by Daviana, who is currently transitioning from a male to a female and is here to share her journey navigating life as a transgender woman, as well as her viewpoints on what life can and should look like once someone begins their transition. In this episode, we explore navigating conversations around gender, pronouns, and transgender inclusion in sports and everything in between. You'll learn how to be respectful towards someone who has transitioned, regardless of your personal viewpoints. We also discuss questions around when these conversations should come up with children and how we can navigate this important and often heated topic with care and understanding. Daviana, welcome to Align Yourself podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Daviana, if there is one thing the person that is sitting with us today takes from this episode, what would it be?
Ooh, I would say to approach all things in life, especially with the transgender community, with kindness and curiosity and respect. You do that and you should be fine no matter what your opinions are.
I'm excited for this conversation today. Can you start by introducing yourself to the listener, your name, how you'd like to be addressed, and the pronouns you use?
So my name is Daviana. It's not legally changed yet, so my name is actually David. Pronouns that I prefer are she and her, but I really don't care. Like, it does not bother me whatsoever if I get called David, Daviana, he, him, sir. It means absolutely nothing to me.
Take us back, then, David, to when you were growing up as still David. What did it feel like to be a little boy at that time? And can you walk us through the journey of realizing you were ready to transition into a woman?
Oof. So I grew up in the 80s. In the 80s, you basically were still kind of bullied and hated on, even if you were gay. So I wasn't gay, I never was gay, I never referred to myself as that or thought I was. But at a very young age of 6 years old, I realized that I wanted to dress like a girl. I wanted to be a girl, but I was the youngest of four and two older brothers, two older sisters, youngest of five. Sorry. I wouldn't say it was like scary per se, but like I was smart enough as a little boy to realize that like I'm not telling anybody how I feel because I don't want to get beat up. So, I did everything I could as a young boy growing into adulthood to become more masculine, to become tougher, to become stronger, to become bigger, to do everything I could to suppress how I felt. Um, right up into being like, okay, I watched all my brothers and sisters go to college. And, the college life in the early 90s was, I would say, like going to visit them and stuff like that was very like alcoholic and drug explorative and, sexually explorative and stuff like that. And I was like, I can't do this. So my thought process was join the military. And then I was like, well, if I'm going to join the military, I might as well join the toughest branch of the military I can. So hopefully that will push down this feeling that I have. So I chose to join the Marine Corps. And even in the Marine Corps, it didn't push it down. And then my last year in the Marine Corps, I was introduced to the world of kink and fetish and bondage, uh, which has become a permanent part of my life. And it wasn't until 3 failed marriages trying to be the man, and having a child and then getting divorced for the 3rd time and realizing it was enough to, like, I'm done faking it. I'm done hiding it. I'm done pretending to be someone I'm not. So that's just 2 years ago is where I started. And then now we're here. So that's it in a nutshell, so to speak.
So, for anyone who hasn't come across your account on social media, you have shared your journey publicly. Can you please tell us and go back to that moment that you decided that enough's enough? What was your next step? Who did you then tell? And how was it received within your family and within your community?
So the first person that I told anything about this was my ex-wife, and it was literally like the second date. And we were together for six, how long were we together? We got 7 years. So I told her about it, and it was more of like, told her about how I was with bondage and fetish and basically cross-dressing at the point, not so much transitioning. And she welcomed it all. She was very accommodating and very open-minded to it. Um, and then the more she allowed me to do it, the more it kind of got to the point where it was like, this is the happier version of me. Um, she took me out for the first time in public, dressed as a full woman on a nice warm day where we got to walk through a nice town, and it was very nice and eye-opening and stuff like that. And then our marriage broke down, not for that reason at all, just for lack of communication. And then it was after our divorce where I was just like, this, I'm done faking it. I'm done trying to pretend, and anybody that's going to be with me is going to be with me and understand this is who I am and accept me. So, I mean, my ex-wife accepted who I was. And I started slowly telling friends about my journey with cross-dressing and how much it made me happier. And then after the divorce, we have 50-50 custody of my daughter. So when I didn't have my daughter, I would present female all the time. And my clients at work, my friends and everything were like, you just seem so much happier. Like, even when I wasn't presenting female, they were just like, they were like, is the divorce what made you this happy? And I was just like, for most of my friends that didn't know at the time, I was like, yeah, it's like, you get divorced and you get happy. And it was like, no, I'm happy because of what I do when I'm not seeing you. And it was presenting female. So like, it brought a new light to my life. And one of the first things I did was seek out therapy. And my first therapist, I ran away from immediately. She just wanted to affirm me and like just tell me that, like, okay, great, you can have those feelings and we'll just run with it. So that kind of scared me. I was just kind of like, this doesn't feel right to me. Like, shouldn't you be like asking me like why I feel this way? What made you feel this way? Stuff like that. So I got away from her as soon as possible, and I found a therapist that was no nonsense. She literally, like, our first introduction, and I remember this to this day. She So from where I live in Massachusetts, and there's like a town in Boston called Dorchester. And if you grew up in Dorchester in the 70s, like, it was kind of a rough neighborhood. So she was this black woman from Dorchester, and she swore at me like a trucker. She was just like, look, I'm a fucking bitch from Dorchester. I've been married, divorced. I've gone through this. I've gone through that. And like, if you lie to me, I'm going to call you on your shit. And I have the degrees to back it up. So don't fuck with me. And I was like, I like you. I'm like, all right, let's go. And so I
I like it
immediately,
as well.
yeah. So she's like, take me back. And I started for an hour and a half. I talked. And when we got done, she was just like, she goes, wow, that was refreshing. I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, I don't think you lied one bit. I'm like, I didn't. And she's good. All right. She goes, I'll see you next week. She goes, that was amazing. I was like, all right, great. So like, we spent 4 years in therapy.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So, if you don't mind me sharing, what did it lead you to? Do you feel like there's a period in your childhood that potentially happened to you that made you feel it was the journey and the beginning of feeling like you were better off a female?
So I didn't really notice things about like my youth and growing up and even in adulthood until going to therapy. And like, when I started noticing these things in therapy, it was like, oh, duh. Like, there's another hint that you should have picked up on that was like, you should have been a woman. But nothing happened to me as a child. Like, I had a rough upbringing, like, growing up in the 70s and 80s, your parents spanked you, hit you, beat you, whatever. But like, everybody was like that, and it was normal. And like, I had moments where I was being bullied, and then, as a bully, what do? You find someone else to bully, because like, that's what you do. When you're being beat up to feel better, you beat up somebody else. Um, so it was a lot of life lessons, but I knew that I felt this way before I was exposed to any type. I was too young I wasn't exposed to bullying. I wasn't exposed to being like spanked or beaten as a child. Like that all happened like after I knew that I wanted to be a woman. Um, but like growing up and going through therapy, and it was like, oh, so, what type of husband were you? And I was like, oh, well, like, I made sure like I bought clothes and shoes that I liked for my wives or girlfriends. Like I always dressed them the way I wanted to see them. And it was like, oh no, that wasn't the way I wanted to see them. It was the way I wanted to be. Like I always bought the high heels and like the specific type of lingerie because it was a specific type of lingerie that I would want to wear. It was a specific type of shoes that I would want to wear. It was the sexy tops that I would want to wear, the sexy pants that I would want to wear. Like it was always that way. And I was the husband that would be like, "Oh, you want to go shopping for the day and try on a whole bunch of clothes? I'm in. Let's go." Like I was like, and how many men are like into doing that? I was, but most men weren't. Like I wasn't big into watching sports. I would much rather spend time with being intimate, because I loved intimacy. So like there was so many like hints that like came up and triggered, and it was like. So, for instance, when you go on hormones when you're transitioning, generally most men have to go on testosterone blockers. Not me, because my testosterone level is, and it always has been my whole life. I've been on testosterone in order to have a child, I had to be supplemented with something that would boost my testosterone level. So, like, and it was always funny because when I competed in the strength world, like, I would always get so strong and then I would start to get weak again, get so strong and then get weak again. And I never really beat a certain threshold of strength. And it was because I couldn't. My testosterone wasn't helping me. It wasn't high enough. I couldn't get there. So it's just all these little things that started popping up in therapy to make me realize, like, well, yeah, I mean, I haven't done like a chromosome test, but I wouldn't be surprised if my chromosomes like are a little off, or I have like an extra chromosome that leads me more towards feminine traits or whatever. But like as a kid, whenever it came to like I played soccer, and we would eventually every now and then split the team up on during a practice and play shirts and skins. I was skinny my whole childhood, super skinny. You could blow me over, but I always had puffy nipples, which meant my estrogen level was higher than my testosterone level. And it's like, that's something I didn't pick up on until being an adult. I was like, oh, you always had more estrogen. You were always meant to be a woman.
Yeah, right. Well, going into that subject of transitioning, for the person listening, and even myself who may not understand what transitioning actually involves, can you explain what that process looks like emotionally, medically, and even financially?
So for me, I'm very, very lucky. So I have like one of the best health insurance plans you can have. So all of my surgeries and my hormones are covered by insurance. So I have like co-payments for my hormones, which is like $20 a month. My surgeries, I've had 3 surgeries so far, 2 facial surgeries and breast augmentation. My co-payments have been no more than $400 for everything. So financially, I've been very lucky. Other people with not so good insurance, it's not covered at all, or their co-payments are thousands of dollars, or they're paying out of pocket and going into debt to get surgeries that are costing them 10 grand, 20 grand, 50 grand. I got very lucky with the health insurance plan that I'm on. And living in Massachusetts, where it's very liberal, the health insurance is more open to the concept of transgenders. So for that, I've been very lucky and fortunate. Emotionally, I would say, one, coming into my own has been just unbelievably a lift of emotional weight off my shoulders. Like I feel so much freer, so much able to express myself. My my ability to not give two shits about what anybody says or thinks about me has just gone through the roof. Like I used to always care what people said about me. I like anytime someone would say something bad, I would look at it as like an insult. Now when people say something bad to me or there's negative comments or something like that, I laugh at it or I make it into a joke because it's like, whatever, I just don't care. Like think what you want to think. That's up to you. Um, the hormones at first, adjusting to them was definitely different. So I'm on estrogen and progesterone. Switching from being on testosterone and having a level of testosterone that was in the 900s to now my testosterone naturally by itself is like down to like 11. which is extremely low. It's actually lower than most females. But now my estrogen level is up in like the 200 range, which is about average, I think. Somewhere between 2 and 400 is average. Um, but at first, going on those hormones, it was like going through perimenopause. I got night sweats, I got hot flashes, cold flashes, headaches, severe depression at times, like emotional, watching something sad on TV and just busting into tears. Um, uh, the ability to hold my bladder went from being a really strong, being able to hold my bladder to not. Like when I got the sensation to pee, it was like, ooh, I was like a woman. I was like, oh my God, I got to pee. And I would run to the bathroom. And if I didn't run to the bathroom, it was like, oh, I can't jump up and down. Like it was like I had a baby and like I can't jump up and down because I'm going to start leaking in my pants. It was ridiculous. And it took some time to adjust to that. And then once everything got leveled out and I adjusted to it, it's a little bit less. I still every now and then get some nice sweats, but nothing bad. And my mood is definitely leveled out. So like I'm definitely a much calmer person than I've ever been. Like I've had moments where like I've always had like a calmness about me, but now it's even more calm and just not giving two craps about what anybody has to say or think or feel. Just like, whatever. No big deal.
I've noticed that with watching your content, how the way you address the topic of even the things that you disagree with in the trans community, you seem to address it without the fire in you, like the heatedness, or like if I get into something like that, I tend to you can feel the fire burning inside of me, and it's like my the
Yeah.
passion explodes. You remain very level-headed throughout all your content,
Yeah. The
which
only time, the only time I get passionate about anything is when someone starts to talk to me about nutrition. Because I've been doing nutrition coaching and strength training for like 25 years. And then women will come in and be like, well, I have PCOS, so it's harder for me to lose weight. I'm like, no, it's not. Shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. They're like, oh, what do you know about PCOS? I'm like, probably 100 times more than you do. I've been doing this for years. I'm like, you want to lose weight? Talk to me. I will teach you how to lose weight. Like, oh, no, it's different. What about endometriosis? I'm like, I can do that too. And like, they just like, they want to get in this battle. And it's just like, that's when I get passionate because it's just like, oh, how do I help? What can I do to help lose belly fat? I had a kid 4 years ago and I can't lose the weight. I'm like, you had a kid 4 years ago and you still holding on to baby weight? I'm like, stop eating like shit. Period. And they're like, well, it's not that. I'm like, yes, it's that simple. You just don't want to. You want to see me get passionate? Go ahead, start an argument with me about proper nutrition. I'll get passionate. But
I do love
transgender
that.
stuff like that, and making fun of me, like whatever. I'm level headed with that. It's easy. It's simple.
Do you have any concerns about the long-term health effects with all the hormones and the medication that you're on?
So the long term health effects are like you become more susceptible to like prostate cancer, which is fine because like prostate can be removed and it's really unnecessary. So like I'm not worried about it um, in that aspect. And I'm also like I've seen people go through different types of cancer, and I have a very strong stance on cancer as far as if I was ever diagnosed with it, like I'm not treating it. Like if there's a tumor that needs to come out because it's causing other problems, great, we'll take it out. But I'm not doing biopsies or anything like that. Like if it needs to be removed, it's being outside of that. I am all about the quality of my life and not the quantity of my life. I've seen so many people go through all sorts of cancer treatments and their quality of life, yeah, their life is extended 10 years or 20 years, but they live like shit for those 10 years or 20 years. And they're clearly very miserable for the most part. Um, and this is my opinion, of course. But like, I'm just going to do the best I can to stay as healthy as I can, and work around whether problems come my way. So this is the life that I'm choosing. And I know it comes with side effects. So with that being said, like I'm prepared for those side effects, and I'd rather live my life as happy as possible as opposed to live my life in a safer manner, quote unquote, where I could still potentially get cancer or have other side effects of just being a normal human being living in today's society. Why do that and hide who I truly am inside and diminish and keep myself upset and depressed and crunched in like a little ball trying to hide who I am? I'd rather be as happy as possible. If that comes with side effects, it comes with side effects. I'll deal with them as they come.
Let's go backwards slightly. How did your 4 older siblings and your parents take this news?
So because I only came out 2 years ago at 46, I'm the youngest. So everybody's older than me. My parents are in their 70s. So like everyone's like, oh, do your parents support me? I'm like, my parents are in their 70s. I'm in my late 40s. Like I don't need support and they don't need to support me. So like when I told my parents and I showed them a picture, like I showed them a picture of me dressed when I was standing in front of them as a male. And my mom was like, yeah, I'm not surprised. And like that was the end of it. Like it was just over. Like it was like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like there was no like, I support you, I don't support you, get out of my house. Like there was nothing like that. It was just like, I'm not shocked. You know, one of my sisters lives far away, one of my brothers lives far away. Um, my closest sibling is my next oldest brother. And like he's just like, whatever, you're happy, you're happy. We hugged it out and that was the end of it. Like it's not a discussion. Like they call me David, whatever, that's fine. I'll always be his brother. I'll never be his sister. Like, and I'm totally okay with that.
You're also a parent. What was it like coming out to your daughter specifically, and
Oh my
how did
God.
those conversations unfold?
Scared shitless. So yes, I'm a dad. I'm a proud dad. And she is literally a daddy's girl. So our bond is beyond tighter than most other people's father-daughter bond. So her mother went back to work at 8 weeks old. I was still running a gym. So my daughter was in a baby Boujourne strapped to my chest 10 hours a day, 5 days a week. And if she wasn't strapped to my chest, she was in a bouncy chair or, on one of those little playpens or something like that. But she was 90% of the time strapped to my chest. So like we are each other's like safety blanket, security blanket, comfort zone. I'm her home. She's my home, the whole bit. Um, so I had planned. So when we got divorced, my ex-wife was like, I want to get her a therapist so that way she can talk through the whole concept of us not being together anymore. Um, I was like, all right. So I had planned, I talked to her therapist and I was like, this is what I want to do. And I want to come out and like, what do you suggest? And she's like, I have no suggestions. She goes, you want to do it in front of me? You can for her safety. She goes, but like, I wouldn't require it. And I was like, okay. So I reached out to my ex and she's like, yeah, let's all do it together. But fast forward like 3 weeks from then, it was like 2 weeks before we were supposed to do it. And it's me and my partner, and we're in my bedroom, and my daughter comes in and she starts going through my jewelry drawers. And she's like, is this all your jewelry, Daddy? And I'm like, yeah. And at this point in time, like I'm already like having my nails done, like as a man, and she doesn't care. She comes to the salon with me. Um, And she's like, you have a lot of jewelry. And I'm like, yeah, Daddy liked girly things. And then she was like, that was the wrong thing to say because that spiked her curiosity. She's like, well, what do you mean you like girly things? I'm like, well, Daddy likes to be pretty and wear pretty jewelry. Like, because she didn't just see like diamond studs anymore. She saw like hoop earrings and these some like very nice necklaces, like evening necklaces and, like a little bit of gaudy stuff. And she was just like, she's like, what do you mean girly, Daddy? And I'm like, do you want me to show you? I said, or do you want to see like a picture? And I'm like, Daddy sometimes likes to kind of dress like a girl. And she just looked at me and she's like, I want to see a picture. I was like, okay. I said, I have a picture of me and Mommy. So I showed her a picture of the day that her mom took me out dressed up nice. And it was the two of us side by side. And she's looking at the picture and she tilts her head a little bit. And she's just like, I wasn't expecting all this. And I was like, my heart dropped. Like it didn't drop into my stomach. It like dropped on the floor. I was like, uh-oh, I fucked up. I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have said this. And I was like, okay, honey. I'm like, what didn't you expect? She goes, and I'm bald. I've been bald since I was like 30. So she's only known me as bald. So she goes, all this hair. And I was like, that's it? She goes, yeah, where's all this hair come from? I was like, oh, it's a wig, honey. And she goes, what do you mean? I'm like, it's like a hairpiece you put on. And she's like, where is it? I'm like, it's in the closet. And she's like, it's here? And I'm like, yeah, it's here. And she's like, I want to see it. I was like, Okay. So I open the closet and it's up on the top shelf, kind of hidden. And I pull out the one wig that was in the picture, but there was like four more up there. And she saw them and she's like, there's more than one? I'm like, yeah. She goes, oh no, I want to see them all. And I'm like, okay. So I pull them all out on the wig stand and one of them was brushed and ready. And like three of them were not brushed. And they were kind of like just sitting there after being washed, like not prepared or anything like that. And she just looks at him. She goes, oh no, daddy, this isn't going to work. And I'm like, what's not going to work? She goes, why aren't these brushed? You can't wear these like this. And I was just like, whew. I'm like, I'm getting yelled at she was 6 at the time, by my 6-year-old. And I feel like a little girl that's being scolded for not brushing her hair. And I was like, well, honey, I prepare them when I'm going to put them on. And she's like, you need to brush these wigs, daddy. These look terrible. You need to take care of these. And I was like, in the back of my head, I'm like, who the hell are you? And I'm like, oh, God, I love you to pieces. This is amazing. Like, thank you. So fast forward, and we decide that the next day we're going to go out to lunch and have a girls' day. So we go out to lunch the next day and we have a girls' day, and we're all dressed up pretty. We go to her favorite restaurant and we sit down. We have her favorite chicken fingers and mac and cheese and whatever. We come home dressed like a girl all day long. The next day she gets up, like, okay, how do you want daddy to present today? And she's like, you dress like a boy. I was like, okay. That day goes by. The next day comes up. She comes storming in the bedroom while we're still asleep, whips open my closet, pulls out a dress, goes down to the bottom, pulls out some shoes. She's like, I want you to wear this today. She goes, and can I help you do your makeup? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And that's how coming out to my daughter went.
So she was 6 at the time. Were you at
Mhm.
all worried about the confusion that may spark in her own mind about her own identity?
Absolutely, I was. But what I did is I constantly, so from that point on, she was involved in everything that I did. So I started doing voice training. If she was home with me during my voice training sessions, she would be part of the session with me. And she would even yell at me when my voice wasn't soft enough. Like right now, I know most people are like, wow, your voice is still pretty deep, but this is actually much softer. My voice was like, oh my God, deep, like unbelievably deeper than it is. But like when I'm reading a bedtime story to her, like I can animate it better and make it even softer. And when I slow down my speech and think about it and take time, I can lighten up my voice a little bit and make it sound a little bit more feminine. But it takes a lot of work, and I can make it a little bit lighter, like I'm trying to right now. And it gets better and softer. And the more I practice this, the better it will get eventually. So she was involved in that. She went to my surgeon appointments with me to discuss everything. And she had moments where she was like, I just want my daddy to be normal. And I'm like, I know. And then I would talk to her and be like, does daddy seem any different to you? And she goes, you seem happier. And I'm like, that's because daddy's being who he wants to be. I'm like, I'm always going to be your daddy. I'm always going to love you. I'm never going to be your mommy. You have a mom. I'm always going to be dad, and I'm always going to love you, and you're always going to be my daughter. And she was like, okay. And for the first, I'd say probably 6 months or so, she needed some reassurance. But then after that, if God forbid, if we're out in public and someone like says something bad, she'll like have a look on her face like she wants to go smack somebody. It's kind of hilarious. She's my little girl, like 100%.
Has that happened much?
It only happened one time. So we were going to see the fireworks on 4th of July last year. And we were in the truck and we were going down a road that eventually was closed and being detoured off. So there was kids on bikes and stuff like that. And I had a baseball cap on and no hair, but I had my makeup done. So this kid drove by and like I almost hit him. And like, so I beeped the horn and like cops were yelling at him and he started to yell back at the cops. And then he looked at me and he goes, what the hell are you anyway? A guy or a girl? And like, I just ignored it and kept driving. And about 2 minutes later in the back seat, I hear my daughter chime up and go, Daddy? I'm like, yeah. She goes, I don't like that boy. I'm like, it's okay, honey. Daddy doesn't like that boy either, but don't worry about it. It's fine. She was like, okay.
In that moment, do you feel like your first reaction was to get defensive?
About what the boy said?
Yeah,
No, I just let it go.
that's cool.
Because it's a boy being like confused. Like I'm sure that boy maybe does or does not know what trans is. So it's okay.
You've spoken about openly about the difference between biological facts and internal feelings, and when it comes to gender. Can you explain how you personally understand and hold both of those things?
So it's so I did a video on facts versus feelings to kind of make people understand that a little bit better. And the bottom line is this: it's like there's no amount of surgery, there's no amount of hormones, there's no amount of makeup, there's no amount of anything that's going to make me a biological woman. It's not possible. So in order to maintain your self sanity and not drive yourself crazy and constantly fight with people, you have to understand that, okay, we understand that you feel like a woman, and people understand like I feel like a woman, and I feel like I wanted to be a woman. And people are like, well, how do you know you feel like a woman? You don't know what a woman feels like. I'm like, well, not for nothing, but most women can't define what it feels like to be a woman. Like, what does it feel like to be a woman? They're like, I don't know. And the only thing they can do is start stating genetic and biological facts. And it's like, okay, great. Well, that's not a feeling, that's a fact. So, like, what does it feel like to you to be a woman? You probably don't have a good answer to that. Most women don't. They'll be like, well, I can have a child and I have a uterus and I was born with this. I'm like, okay, you're stating facts now. You're not stating feelings. So I understand my biology. I'm a man. I'll always be a man, whether I get that cut off and have, you know, female vagina formed and put in there. No matter what, I'm still a man. It's never going to change. Genes are genes, biology is biology, chromosomes are chromosomes. None of that stuff can be changed. So it doesn't matter how I feel. It's like, I'm happy with how I feel. I'm happy with looking in the mirror and seeing something that looks more female, and that makes me feel good and makes me feel better than looking in the mirror and seeing Dave. I like looking in the mirror and seeing Daviana. It makes me very happy. It makes me very at peace. And if I ever wake up in a day where like I feel depressed or sad, or like it's a rainy day and it's just like I feel lazy and I don't want to get out of bed, literally if I get out of bed and start doing my makeup, it's like a switch just turned and I'm like, all right, I'm getting ready for the day. Let's go. Like, I'm excited now. I'm happy because now I'm more me and I'm ready to go.
I'm going to give everyone a trigger warning because
Okay.
you dove into another topic that you also gave your followers a trigger warning, and it's that one that resonated deeply. And this is exactly why I got you on here, because regardless that you're transitioning into a woman, you called out a lot of things that I personally think have needed to be called out. So, can you tell our listener the 6 rules for anyone transitioning
The six
that you
rules that I
have?
came up with. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So, rule number one is you should definitely be 18 years of age or older. I would prefer it would be like 25 because of how long it takes for the prefrontal cortex to mature, which is the part of our brain that's responsible for like rash decisions and stuff like that. But if I hold it to the same concept of like, if you're allowed to join the military at 18 and risk your life, then you should be able to do whatever you want to your body, period. So that's rule number one. You need to be 18. Rule number two, and I made sure I had them written down so I didn't forget it. You have to be mentally okay that your biological gender is always the gender you're going to be. You have to be able to accept that. You have to be able to know it and realize that you will never be the sex that you wish you were. You can have the feeling and you can have the surgeries and you can do all the hormones that you want to do, and that's great. And once you are presenting enough and passing enough, and people will start to address you as the gender that you prefer, but you need to understand that on the inside, you're still the gender that you start out as, and that will never change. That's number two. Number three, you cannot get upset when you're misgendered. And this is a big one because so many people get upset. Like when you look in the mirror, like when I look in the mirror, I see a woman. I see someone who to me is beautiful. But other people will look at me and be like, that's a dude. Like, so if someone says, hey, man, like my response is, hey, how are you? Like, you have to understand that just because you want to be that other sex or that other gender, however you want to word it, um, doesn't mean that you look like it. Just because you say, well, these are my pronouns. Well, if you got a full beard going and you're wearing a dress and you're saying my pronouns are she, her, I'm going to have a hard time calling you she, her. It's going to be tough. And if you are a woman and you're just wearing a pair of pants and boots and a shirt and a baseball cap on backwards and you're saying my pronouns are he, him, but you clearly have feminine features, I'm going to have a hard time calling you he, him. I'm going to be like, you clearly look like a woman to me and you got boobs. So you're a woman. Like, you know, when you become more passable, people will start to respect your pronouns. And like for me, like so many people look at me and they're like, wow, until you started speaking, I thought I was looking at a woman. And it's like, cool, I get that, which is why like people are like, oh, you shouldn't change your voice. I think it's great. And I'm like, I want it to change a little bit. So when I start to speak on a regular basis, people don't automatically go, oh, that's a dude. Like I would like people to be like, that's a beautiful woman. She sounds like a woman, this, that, and the other thing. So yeah, you should not be getting upset when you're misgendered. You should understand that what you see in the mirror is not necessarily what everybody else sees and recognizes, and you should be accepting of that. That's 3. Number 4 would be the concept of calling people transphobic simply because they misgender you or they don't want to follow your ideology. You have to be able to understand that just because someone doesn't agree with what you're doing, it doesn't make them transphobic. Just because I don't agree with the fact that you like to live a lifestyle where you eat McDonald's every day and you weigh 400 pounds doesn't make me fat phobic. Like there's all these new things for people to be like, I need everybody to accept my life. And the only person that needs to accept your life is you. And if you accept your life, it doesn't matter if other people don't. And if other people don't accept that life, it doesn't make them phobic to you. It doesn't make them racist to you. It doesn't make them like anything. And you need to understand that and realize that you can't just be like, oh, well, you said that because I'm trans, or you said that because I'm gay, or you said that because I'm black, or you said that because I'm white. Like that whole concept and thought process needs to stop.
It's a victim mentality, though, isn't it? And social
Well,
media enables that mentality and it feeds it back to people to create that narcissistic mind behavior where everyone's out to attack and everyone's out. You're the victim in any situation, regardless of how anyone looks at you, talks to you, addresses you, anything. I feel from my viewpoint that social media feeds that back to people.
mm-hmm. Drastically, yep. Bathrooms. So this relies more so on locker rooms than it does bathrooms. So in open area changing areas, you have to realize that you're no longer allowed, period. So if you have a gym membership and you identify as a trans woman, you can't go into the women's locker room, period. It's done. Your ability to shower in that locker room is over. End of story. Now, if you're a trans man, your ability to go into the men's room is also over. But now here's where we get into that gray area is like when you're a trans man and you've been on testosterone and you now have that male shape, male figure, male jawline, you have facial hair, your boobs are gone. Guess what? You can't go in either one. You're done. So there's a lot of problems there too, because people are like, oh, we're going to start forcing people to go into the bathroom they were assigned at birth. Okay, well, how's that going to work when you see us, what presents to be a man with a muscular body that's actually a biological woman who has facial hair walking into the women's room? That woman's going to get her ass kicked big time because there's going to be some guy that knows his wife is in there and is going to go beat that person's ass. So this is where like a lot of people always are focusing on the trans women and not the trans men. And believe it or not, there's a lot more trans men and there's a lot more women that want to present as men than there is the other way around. And it has been for a long time. Now, bathroom use is different. So many people have problems now because they're like, oh, what about all the pedophiles and this, that, and the other thing? If you do the research on the mindset of pedophiles, they are looking for the easiest victim possible. And it's not going to be in a bathroom filled with women. What you have going into bathrooms now causing problems, and when I say bathrooms, I mean bathrooms. I don't mean locker rooms or gym locker rooms or changing rooms. I mean legitimate bathrooms where it's just a bunch of stalls. The only people going into there that are causing problems are the people that are clearly not trying to be the gender they want to be. Because your trans women that legitimately want to be trans women are not causing any problems in a female bathroom. They're literally going into the bathroom, going into a stall, going to the bathroom, coming out, washing their hands, and leaving. They have no interest in being a predator because they are legitimately trying to fit in. They don't want you to notice them as being a man. They want you to notice them as being you, as being a fellow female. Those people are not causing problems. And 90% of the time, I have plenty of trans women that are friends of mine that are just as gorgeous as you, have the same body as you, and have the nice, presentable voice as you. And they could be in the bathroom with you and still have their male parts, and you would never know because they're intelligent. They're walking into the stall, and if they have to pee, they're sitting down to pee. They're not standing there so that way you can hear, wow, that pee's a lot louder, and why are their toes facing the wall and not facing the door? Like, you understand what I mean? So as a trans person, your ability to go into changing rooms, shower rooms, or open changing rooms are gone. They're over. So if you plan on continuing to go to the gym, you're going to the gym and you're leaving and going home and showering. If your routine used to be, I go to the gym early in the morning and shower there and go to work, well, guess what? You now have to change your routine. And you should understand that and accept that. Because it's not about your comfortability, because we are the minute. We are the little bit of people. So it's not about pleasing us. It's about us pleasing everybody else. It's about us making sure other people are comfortable, not other people making us comfortable. We're the 1% or less. The majority rules, and that's always the way it's been. The majority rules. And that's the way it should be.
Before you go on to your sixth one, how do you feel about the rest of the trans community about what you just said? What do you think that they think about what you just said?
Oh, they hate me for it. It's quite clear. And it's like, it goes on to the same concept as like, you have the few allies that call themselves allies out there that are like, trans women are women. And it's like, no, they're not. Just like trans men aren't men. And it's to me, it's like, okay, let's think about one thing really clear. This is why I call myself the common sense life coach on TikTok. What's the one qualification you have to have in order to be a trans woman? That everybody has to have in order to be a trans woman. What's the one qualification you have to have? You were born a male. So therefore, trans women are not women. Trans women are men. Trans men, in order to be a trans man, in order to be a trans man, the one deciding factor that you have to be in order to be a trans man is to have been born a biological female. So it's right there in the title of you call it, well, I'm a trans woman, so I'm a woman. No, you're a trans woman, so you're a man that wants to be a woman. Learn the difference between facts and feelings. That's common sense.
Okay, and your sixth one, sports. Give it to us.
Sports. Okay. So once you decide to become trans, you have to understand that you're done with sports. Unfortunately, trans women, you're 100% done with sports because you're now on testosterone. You cannot play against women as a trans man. You can't, because you're now on testosterone. You're going to get stronger and have an unfair advantage completely against all women. Period. End of story. If you want to compete in untested sports like powerlifting and strong woman, I mean, by all means, I'm sure nobody's going to care. Trans women, you cannot compete against real women. So perfect example of that. I'm a competitive strongman athlete and powerlifter. Before I transitioned my last strongman competition at nationals, I placed third in the nation in my age group and weight class. Now, strong man and strong woman is not a drug tested sport. And there's lots of men and women that do steroids. So even now, in my age group and weight class, I would probably destroy most women. But I am going to compete again in powerlifting. And I'm doing a meet coming up in February. But I'll be competing in the men's masters division as who I am, competing against men. And that's it. Like you have to understand that it's like the concept of health. You're choosing this way in life, and this way of life has side effects. One of those side effects is that you can't do this anymore. And you have to be able to accept that. That should be one of the rules. That should be one of the things that is taught to you when you go to therapy, when you go and you seek your trans doctors, like, okay, realize that you're done playing sports. It's over. You're not ever going to compete against the same gender anymore, or the gender that you want to be. You're not going to compete against them. It's done.
It's a breath of fresh air. Breath of fresh air? Am I saying
Mm-hmm.
that correctly?
Yep.
Hearing you say that, because I think a lot of people who have, seen the trans community come in more to the limelight and see the opposite sex playing in a sport, and we kind of all have to, the first word comes to mind is enable that. And anyone speaks out against that, we get called homophobe, transphobe, and we get criticized. And I shared publicly, there was a post where a politician was bringing the LGBTQ, I hope I said that correctly, community into primary schools and talking about like gay and whatever it was. And I shared on my socials that I felt that that wasn't a conversation to be brought to young children. And the gay community went on full attack. They started commenting on all of my posts. They hunted down my podcast. They left 1-star reviews. They came to attack me. And I wouldn't call myself or class myself as a homophobe whatsoever. Have sex with who you want. I don't care. Marry who you want. I don't care. I'm not a homophobe, whatever. But what I personally have had a concern about, and I think a lot of people in my community also are concerned about the push of the gender ideology on young children. I want to ask you about your thoughts and your views on that and the gender conversations, and how should and can it be handled with kids? And do you think it should be something put in daycares and school
Okay.
and pushed
So
onto young children?
I've only been on TikTok since June of last year. So I went from 200 followers to now I'm at 420 something thousand followers. I have helped more parents understand what their children are going through, understand that about 90, I would say 99% of the people that come to me, their children are being, I hate to use the buzzword groomed, but they're being socialized because one of their friends might determine they want to be trans. So now they start questioning things and stuff like that because this stuff is allowed in schools. So my thought process on all of this is let's go ahead and add a new rule number one. Okay. And that new rule number one is there is zero trans ideology, trans dressing, socially out, being anything like that in the school system whatsoever. Period. So if you're not allowed to transition until you're 18, guess what? You are not allowed to have different pronouns in school. You're not allowed to dress like the opposite sex in school. Like if you're like, this is the one thing that people understand, like women can dress like boys and still look like women, and it's not a big deal. Men or boys cannot dress like girls. So with that being said, like it has that unfair play, but at the same time, it's the way it's always been and it's less confusing. And I feel as though so much of the trans kids are just being confused because there's so many other people. It's a fad. Like I would say that at least 90% of it is a fad. 10% of it might be real. Like if you took 100 kids and they're all claiming to be trans. Maybe two of them might actually turn out to be trans, like legit. Like, and I mean, like for the rest of the life, not including the ones that may transition and then detransition 5 or 10 years later. It's too much of an ideology. It's too much like when I was a kid, you had your athletes, you had your pretty girls, you had your nerds, your geeks, you had the drama club, you had your drug addicts, you had the kids that rode their skateboards to school, and like everybody had a little clique they all fit into. And if one of their friends joined another clique, well, then they started to join that clique. And I think the trans ideology is the same thing. It's like, oh, well, my friend thinks they're a cat, so you know what? I'm going to be a dog. Or my friend thinks they're a girl, so maybe I'm a girl because I like what they like. And it's like, no. And I've literally on lives, I've talked kids that are like 18 come on my live or 16 and say, hey, like, I'm a girl. I like my hair short. I'm overweight. I like to ride four-wheelers and I like to hunt. I think I'm a boy. I'm like, I think you're a girl that just like outdoor activities. And that's okay. So it's like a lot of that uh, is happening when it shouldn't be happening. So I think bottom line is that, and like then you have these school systems where some of them are saying, oh, the parents, we don't have to tell the parents. I'm sorry, but you're not a therapist. You're a teacher. Your job is to educate my child. And if my child gets in a fight, you have to tell me. If my child is failing, you have to tell me. But now you think that because my child has a personal problem, you can keep that to yourself? No, absolutely not. Like, your job is to not be my child's safe space. That's my job. Your job is not to allow my child to confide in you. Your job is to educate my child. And your job is to, oh, you have a problem, honey? You need to go talk to your parents. Like, period. That stuff should not be in school.
On that topic, there is, I guess, a thought process to a lot of people, including myself, that the government is allowing this confusion on young kids and they're pushing it because kids confuse kids away from their family. Like, this is what it creates the weaker family unit. What is your thought process on that? Do you think the government, like, and I'm not talking about who's on top of you and I, like the police officers and stuff. I'm talking the top dogs. Do you think there is more of an evil narrative being pushed onto children to separate that family unit?
To be honest with you, I haven't dug deep enough into it to give you a decent answer on that. But like, I think it also has a lot to do with like parents that are less involved with their children. Like, if you think about it, like if you have a working family where both mom and dad works, right? Like, we won't even bother getting into the single parent household. Both mom and dad works. And let's say that, like, an average job is 9 to 5. So they take their kid to school, and then their kid goes to school and then is generally in an after school program. So let's think about the reality. Who's spending more time with the child, the parent or the school system? The
School
school system.
system.
So how do we change that? It's difficult, but you have to find a way to change that. And you need parents to step up and actually spend quality time with their children. So it's like, okay, like when you pick up your kids from school, no matter what time it is, you need to have that parent time with your children. You need to be involved with them, not, okay, go upstairs and do your homework. Okay, dinner's ready. Okay, go
Yep.
upstairs and finish homework.
Or
Okay, go
get an
take a shower.
iPad. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You need to have that engagement time with your child where they understand that you're the parent and you're the caregiver and you're the loved one, and they can confide in you and trust you and say anything that comes to their mind. Like, my daughter and I have two rules. There's no yelling allowed in the house, and there's no lying allowed. She can say anything she wants to say that's on her mind at any time, and she will not get yelled at for it. She will not get scolded for it. And no matter how upset she gets, if she goes and throws a temper tantrum for any reason whatsoever, I will not yell at her. Period. If she does something wrong or breaks something or spills something, there's no yelling. There's no high reaction. Everything has to remain on a calm, mellow tone, very level, easy playing field. So that way there's no raising anybody's attitude whatsoever. And that keeps a nice calm house.
This is something I'm really passionate about, and something I became passionate about when becoming a mum, is building a strong connection with your child. And I've spoken about this to like my friends about like becoming your root and becoming grounded in your childhood with your connection to your parents or your primary caregiver is it's like it puts the roots from this tree into the earth, and the tighter that connection, the more love and security you feel to your parent grounds your roots deeper and deeper. So as you go through life, you're less likely to go down the wrong path because of your rooted. This is my view on it. You're rooted. So I've they say that the first 3 years of your child's life is the most crucial to be in connection and to be together every day. And it's something that I would love to be able to learn to teach other women how to build online businesses prior to having kids or whilst having kids so they can bring in that extra income whilst also being with their kids every day, because I think it's so important and it's something I'm so passionate about. So if a parent is listening and one day their child comes to them and says something along the lines that they may feel that they are the opposite sex. And I'm not talking that when they're young, because obviously, like my 3-year-old, sometimes my 1-year-old might pull out my 3-year-old's hair and she'll go, "Don't pull my hair out, I'll turn into a boy." Like it's a 3-year-old, right? So I'm talking about not when they're young, but I'm talking as a teenager. How would you advise we handle that?
So the first thing I tell everybody is first, start asking questions as to why they feel that way. What makes them feel that way? And, be unbelievably inquisitive. Like, do it kindly and safely, and also do it sternly, and act like a parent. So many parents today want to be their child's best friend, and they want to put friendship and support above parenting. I want my child to feel loved and supported. Okay, great. But don't support them so much that you're actually grooming them. Because if your child comes to you at 14 years old and says, "Hey mom, hey dad, guess what? I think I'm a girl." "Oh, that's great. Let's talk about that." And that's awesome. But do you want us to like take you shopping for like makeup and this, that, and the other? Like, no, that should not be your immediate reaction. And the reaction should be, okay, well, let's talk about this and let's sit down and have conversations and stuff like that. Like, don't be defensive about it. And then start talking about like, all the pros and cons of it. Like, if you have a girl that wants to be a boy, like, and you start getting into it, it's like, okay, do you want kids, honey? Like, do you want to be able to birth a child? Because if you go down this road, you're going to lose that ability. Like, there's so many things that you can go in to talk to them about that they might not even have thought of. And the list is just endless. And then from that point, like, once you get through that initial questioning phase and you believe that, like, okay, this is something they need extra help with, then you need to start vetting a therapist that's not just going to affirm them. Because affirmation, as far as I'm concerned, is grooming. Like, and there's so much affirmation. Everyone's like, affirm, affirm, affirm. Like, my therapist literally told me point blank, she goes, the reason why I got out of big medicine therapy, because she was at a private practice, she goes, because we were literally told, affirm first, ask questions later. And I look at that like, okay, so if I came to you and that is how you handle things, and if I came to you and I said, I have suicidal thoughts, would you be like, okay, cool, you can go to Home Depot and get some rope and you can get an eye hook and you can screw it into the ceiling. Make sure you find a stud finder so you can screw it into the stud so it's secure. And like, we can help you with this. Like, it's the same thing. Like, you're literally destroying your child's life. So like, why would you affirm? Like, you need to ask questions in a manner that's going to trigger their mind to make them really think about what they're doing. And if you get to the point where it's like, okay, this is really something that like might be true and might be accurate, well then, okay, let's find a therapist. But you need to find a therapist that's going to be on board with not just affirming. Like, you needed to like, we're going to have a session, but the first session is going to be with us present. And there's so many therapists that are like, well, the therapy is between me and the child and like client patient confidentiality. It's like, as far as I'm concerned, that stuff needs to stop. like completely. Like after 18, sure, you can have your confidentiality, but like before 18, like, no, you're going to tell me everything that goes on in that session, everything. And I need to know. And the fact that like well, that's her space or his space. And like what they say there is safe. Like that's nice. That's still my child. They're still a minor. I need to know. And I really don't care what therapists have to say about that. It's just like I'm their parent. End of story. What goes on in their life is my business more importantly than anybody else's business. End of story. I need to know. So, like, those I think would be the ultimate first steps. If my child came to me and said, "This is what I think," it would be like, okay, let's sit down and talk about it. Let's find out why you feel this way. Let's really get into it. What makes you feel this way? With all the parents and all the kids that have come to me, like, the amount of parents that have come to me is literally like, I would say, at least 10 to 15 parents a month for the last 6 months. So the numbers have drastically risen since I first started talking to parents. Not one, I take that back. So there's been two cases where the parents have been like, you've helped so much. My kid is now watching everything that you do, and they're really into your ideologies, and they're really going about this a much different way than what they were. And it's a much safer way for them to transition. Thank you so much. The rest of them have all been like, thank you so much. My kid does not believe they're trans anymore. They understand what's going on, and like they're done with it. Like it's way too much. It's such a minute group of people that feel this way and truly feel this way, which is why like everyone asks me all the time, like, would you transition sooner if you could have, or had you known? And I'm like, no, no way. Like, I'm glad I'm transitioning at the age I'm at the mindset that I'm at. And I went through and I lived my life the way I did. Like, did some of it suck? Yeah, absolutely. But it turned me into the person that I am now that can handle all this way better than I could have if I'd done this when I was 20. And I know I have a few trans friends they transitioned in their early 20s and they're mentally a mess. They put on a good show when I see them and like try to say they're okay, but like, God forbid you tell them that like, I mean, I had one person that like is this most beautiful woman I've ever laid eyes on, and she's a trans woman, biological male, still has her parts, but oh my God, gorgeous. And she's like, you don't think I'm a beautiful woman? I'm like, I think you're a beautiful trans woman. Yeah. And she's like, no, I'm a beautiful woman. I'm like, no, you're a beautiful trans woman. Oh, so you're saying I'm not a woman? I'm like, no, you're not. And she loses her shit. When people say, oh, you have you have a mental, what do they call it? A mental illness. And I'm like, no, no, no. The person that thinks that way, that thinks that they are a woman, that's the person with the mental illness. I think I'm very mentally stable. Like,
Do
I
you think
understand.
how many? So let's go back to you saying a trans is the 1%. How many in that 1% do you think like you, who are who are with more the facts than they are the feelings?
Uh, I've been approached through Instagram and TikTok by about, I would say, roughly around 20 to 25 other trans people, men, both trans men and trans women, that are like, I love that you're out there saying this. Like, I appreciate it. I feel the exact same way you do. And like, you're an inspiration and stuff like that. That like, so there's plenty more out there just like me. And this is the one thing I tell people all the time. Like, there's so many other trans people like me, but the problem is, it's not a problem. The issue is that like, when it comes to trans women, they're just as beautiful as you are. They sound like you do, like a woman. They don't want people to know that they're a trans person because they're successfully living their life where everybody assumes that they are the gender that they want to be. And they don't want to ruin that because they can walk into a female space and go unnoticed and people treat them like a woman. And they're not there being creepy. They're not there doing anything wrong. They're doing what they need to do and they're walking out the door. So they don't want to come out and be like, hey, I'm a trans woman, because they're passing 100% as a woman. And they don't want to disrupt that life. They don't want to go through the trauma that everybody else is going through and dealing with it. And I don't blame them. So there's plenty of other people out there that think just like me and are passing and are living their lives quite happily.
How do you think we can effectively move forward with the other that don't think the same way that you also describe as more so mental illness?
Honestly, I think the only way to do it is to just lay down the fucking law, like, period. Like, just be like, this is the way it is. Like, you chose this path, and this is the side effects of that path. Like, done. If you can't accept who you are, then you need more therapy. You need a therapist that's going to be like, no, you're not a woman. No, you're not a man. You want to be a woman. You feel like you should have been, but you are still a man and you need to learn to accept that. Or you are still a woman and you need to learn to accept that. Period. And I think that with that setup, you'll have a lot less people transitioning and you'll have a lot less people detransitioning because the rate of detransition has climbed because people are like transitioning at a younger age when they didn't really know what was going on. They didn't really have full mental capacity to handle what it is they were doing or what it is they were going to do or get into.
Because the concern is when children are being taken to the doctor or to see a psychologist, they're being affirmed as opposed to questioned.
Correct.
Right. Yeah, that's it. So how do you think we can change that? Like, I know so you're working in a gym now.
I closed my gym, but I still coach people at home. Yeah.
Would you consider going into coaching in this space of helping parents, kids, like full time blowing this up and getting this message that you're sharing out, like getting books off the shelf that are
I
targeting
would,
8-year-olds?
I would absolutely love to. I would love to do public speaking. I've had people in Australia, the UK, like literally everywhere being like, you need to come here. People in different states reaching out to me. You need to come to this state. You need to talk. You need to do this. Like, I would love to become a public speaker. And like one of the biggest things I actually told my partner, I said, if I become a public speaker, I said, I'm going to be one of the next one who's going to have a target on my head. I said, but being the common sense person that I am, I said, I'm going to do my public speaking behind some bulletproof glass. I'm like, because it'll only be a matter of time before one of these people that are mentally unstable decides to be like, you know what? You need to shut up. And that's unfortunate, but that's the way the world is today.
Have you got any like resources? I'm thinking like I'm picturing in my mind like even ebooks or PDFs where people can jump on your website, download, and therefore they know how to then have the because I know as a parent you can read things online about when a child says this is how you should respond, but in the moment there's emotion, there's heatedness, there's your own trauma, there's your own childhood, there's your own everything coming and you forget what to say. Would you create resources that parents can easily download so therefore they know how to effectively ask the questions when going to see a psychologist, when going to see a doctor, when having a conversation with their kids, when those conversations are brought to them?
It's definitely something I've been thinking of. People have asked me to one, start my own podcast, which I haven't done. People have also asked me to write a book, which I'm actually in the process of writing 3 different books. But like public speaking is definitely one of the things that I would really like to get into. I actually just started doing stand-up comedy out of the blue. And I joke a lot about being trans, because I try to lighten the mood, as best as I can about it. It's just like a lot of people don't deal with trans the way I do. So like I'm doing everything I can to get my voice out as much as possible. I'm starting a YouTube channel. So like I really want to public speak a lot more, but I think the biggest problem is that you have so many people that are sensitive to it that, like, for instance, like if I walked into a school and like approached some random high school and said, hey, this is my stance, this is who I am, I'd like to publicly speak to your students, they'd be like, no effing way. Like you'd get hated on, you'd get shit thrown at you, people would like yell and scream, we would need police here to protect you, like, because you have that group of people in the young age that is so hell-bent on you saying and accepting who they are
Affirm,
regardless.
yeah,
Yes.
everyone is to affirm, and anyone that doesn't affirm is shunned upon.
Yeah. And like, to me, it's like, and there's very few people, but there is few. Like, I mean, I've seen some like interviews where like a gay male teacher will be talking to the city he lives in or the town he lives in talking to like the town board, like during a filmed town meeting, and he's talking about like how there should not be any rainbow flags or any trans flags whatsoever in the school or the classroom in any way, shape, or form. My sexuality should not be discussed and stuff like that. And like the school board like hates him for it. They're like, get, like, and these are the type of people that are like, oh well, you're not gonna affirm these people or accept these people, then we're gonna find a way to fire you. Like there's so much protection, or if you want to call it that, or we want to have equal opportunity for everybody to express themselves. Well, guess what? You're in school. You're not there to express yourself. You're there to learn. Sit down, shut up, and learn. It's the same thing with like, there was one school, I forget where it was, I just started recently, where like 2 years ago, they initiated a cell phone policy where all cell phones were handed in at the beginning of the day and given back at the end of the day. And you had some students that were like, this is great, I love it. Other students were like, well, I use my phone a lot to like quickly look something up, or to like, get on a calculator real quick. And it's like, everyone like, and I've heard parents talk about it like, well, I need to be able to access my child like immediately if something goes wrong, or they need to call me immediately if something goes wrong. Like, no, like when I was a kid, if you didn't feel good, you didn't pick up your cell phone and text your mom. You told the teacher sent you to the nurse. If it was anything worthwhile, then the nurse called the parent and said, hey, you need to come get your kid. Your kid's sick. Like, it's those simple things that need to be backpedaled. Like, we rely too much as a community on this type of shit. Like, people talk to me all the time, like, oh, well, like my brother got his daughter's like cell phones at like 13 and 14. And I was like, no, my daughter will get a cell phone when she's like 18, like period. Like, she doesn't need a cell phone. She's in high school. What does she need a cell phone for? She doesn't need one. It's not necessary. It's completely unnecessary. And anybody that wants to argue that fact, you've become lazy. You've become inefficient. You're not involved with your child enough. Like, oh, just text me, honey. Like, no, you're going to go here, go here. When you're done there, you're coming home. End of story. There's no discussion. There's no picking up the phone and asking me. You're going to do what you're told. That discipline needs to be brought back into the schools and as parents. Period. That's my thought
and
process.
and into homes.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Definitely.
And as parents. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, are there any parts of the transitioning that you think are often misunderstood or oversimplified by the public?
Yes. The biggest one would be sexuality. Everybody assumes that if you've transitioned, you're gay. And it's like, so people ask me all the time, like, oh, so you're transitioned to a woman. So like you date men now? And I'm like, no. They're like, why not? I'm like, why do I have to? They're like, well, if you still like women, why did you transition to be a woman? And I look at them, my first question to them is like, do you walk up to two lesbians and ask them why one of them isn't transitioning into a male? Or walk up to two gay guys and ask them why one of them isn't transitioning into a woman? And they're like, oh, yeah, good point. I'm like, yeah, good point. I'm like, transition doesn't have anything to do with sexuality. I said, although a lot of people do transition because they want to be that opposite sex, to be with the opposite sex, but that's not the main reason. The main reason they're transitioning is because they feel like they should have been the opposite sex. And with that feeling comes the sexuality of wanting to be with that sex, but not for me. And not for a lot of other people that transition. I know plenty of people that transition from male to female that are still into females. I know a few trans women and trans men that have transitioned to men, but are still interested in men. So like, it doesn't always have to do with sexuality. And that is the biggest thing that is very automatic. It's one of the biggest topics that comes up when I go live. They're like, oh, so you like, one of the number one question I get asked, are you into men or women? Women. Like, oh, wow, that's cool. And it's like, I don't understand why it's such a drastic topic to understand. Like, it's not a hard concept, but people automatically assume that you're into the opposite sex.
Are many women then into men who present as women?
Well, people ask me all the time, do you have a hard time dating? And I'm like, no, not at all. Like, I have a girlfriend. Like, if you were to look at my inbox on Instagram or TikTok, it is filled with men and women asking me out. So like, there's no, at a long time ago, I'd have to go back. I don't know. This is probably like 2015, maybe 2013. I had a client who was 15. She was a female, came from a die-hard Italian family where it was like, you are going to be with an Italian man, you're going to marry an Italian man, you're going to stay at home and you're going to make babies. End of story. Like that was the way like her upbringing was. And she was dating a woman. And I was like, so how's your mom feel about this? Cause like I knew the mom. And she's like, she hated it at first. She goes, but she's fine with it now. And I was like, so when did this happen for you? I said, because the last time we talked, you had a boyfriend. And she's like, love is love. She goes, it doesn't matter. She goes, I love the person, not the sex, not the gender. And like coming from a 16-year-old girl back then, 15-year-old girl, I'm sorry, like that to me was like, wow, that was really big of her, really mature of her. And that's what I look at it now. Like people are more attracted to the one biggest thing I get, like, so my current girlfriend would tell me all the time, she goes, your authenticity is like just amazing. I love it. It's unbelievable. You as a person is just amazing in a person. And it's like, I ask people all the time, like, what is it about me? And it's your authenticity. You're authentic. You are who you are and you don't care. And it's like, take it or leave it. So I have men that want to date me. I have women that want to date me. I have other trans women that want to date me. But I like women.
Many people feel afraid of saying the wrong thing, especially when it comes to pronouns. What are your thoughts on that fear and how can we create more open and less hostile conversations?
That comes back to one of the rules of not being offended if you get misgendered. You know, like people, for instance, there was plumbers here today working on my shower. They all called me he, sir, sir, sir. Like I was like, shook their hands and like that was it. And like it didn't matter. Like it just stop worrying about it because it's not your problem. You know what I mean? My feelings are not up to you to protect. You don't know me from a hole in the wall. When you meet someone for the first time, if you and I never met and we like were out to dinner or something like that, and like you and your husband came walking in and like we had a mutual friend and like they introduced me and said, hey, this is Daviana. And I reached out to you and said, hi, my name's Daviana. My pronouns are she, her. Like if you said that to me, I'd be like, oh, Jesus Christ, here we go. Like, no, like this is where I say approach everything with kindness and curiosity. So if there's someone standing in front of me that is clearly trying, like really putting in the effort to present as the opposite sex that they are, the opposite gender that they are, I don't need them to tell me their pronouns because I'm going to assume like automatically like, okay, you're a girl, you're wearing men's clothing, you're presenting like a man, you're not shaving your face is starting to grow facial hair, like you're with a woman, you're clearly dressed as a dude. I'm going to assume that your pronouns are he, him, especially if you reach out and be like, hey, my name's Ryan. I'm going to be like, hey, Ryan, I'm going to refer to you as he. If you're a man, but yet you're clearly have all your makeup done, you have nice jewelry done, you have a wig on, or you have your hair done nice, you're wearing women's clothing, I'm going to assume that your pronouns are she, her. Because I'm going to be polite, because that's common respect. That's just being a kind human being. But if you're a man and you're in a dress and you have a beard and you got lipstick on, sorry, dude. Like, I'm going to be like, what's up, man? How you doing? I'm not going to be like, and if you turn around and go, my pronouns are she, her, I'm going to be like, yeah, that's nice. I really don't care. Like, sorry. You want to be called she, her, dude, put in more effort. Like, it's the same thing when people be like, I don't like being misgendered. Well, you know what? If you put more effort into appearing like the gender you want to be, you wouldn't be misgendered. So like, if you don't want to get misgendered, try harder because I feel like the general population of people want to be kind. They want to be kind. They want to be nice. They want to be polite. Nobody wants to intentionally. And don't get me wrong. I've come across a few people that are intentionally see me dressed up and they instantly be like, hey, man, like on purpose. And I just don't like, all right, whatever. Like you do you. I'm good with that. Like but you can tell it's intentional. They want to dig and they're trying to get a reaction. That's a bully. And bullies live their life by trying to get a reaction out of somebody. And it's as long as you realize that, that stuff shouldn't bother you. Think of it this way. When someone says like, oh, you're a dickhead, and people go, oh, well, being called a dickhead isn't personal. And it's like, no, it's two nouns put together to get a prescribed response. That's it. Someone took the English language, put two nouns together that intentionally they're trying to offend you. You can recognize that and learn to just let it go. But if you take offense to it, now you're feeding into the bully's mentality. Take away the fire. Don't get offended. It's that simple.
I'm going to take it, put a leaf into my book. I'm definitely someone who gets offended really easily. If
Yeah, but don't. Like,
someone were to
like the other thing I look at it is like this, like, and I say this to people all the time, like, because there's some people that will come into my live and intentionally just start lashing out. And I'll look back at them, like, obviously, like, I can't see them, but I know they can see me. And I'll be like, do you feel better? Like, did doing that and saying that make you feel better? Do you have a better day now that you came into my live, not knowing who I am, and started yelling or typing gay, 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 mental illness, mental illness? Are you now happier? And like, because if you are, if that made you feel better, then great, because I just did my job. Me presenting as me, pissing you off, and you being able to vent about how pissed off you are made you feel better. Good. I'm glad I just made you feel better. Like, I have people that come in every now and then, and I love it because a lot of my followers will join me in making fun of these people. Somebody will write gay, 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 gay over and over and over again. And let's say it was like, I think the last person who was like, his name was Hector. And I was like, oh my God, you guys, look, Hector is gay. He just used my platform to come out. Everybody congratulate Hector. And the next thing you know, you see, congratulations, Hector. We're proud of you. Like, this is a safe space. And it's like, and it's amazing. And like, as long as you realize that that's what people are doing, like, because as a kid, I was bullied. And being bullied as a kid, like, what do? You look for someone smaller than you so that way you can bully them because it makes you feel better. So what have I realized about bullies? Bullies' lives, something in their life, whether it be just that day, whether it be their whole life, whether they're having a bad week, they're looking for someone to burst out on. And it just so happened that if you triggered them enough to become their target. So let them vent. Let them get it out. You feel better? Good. Congratulations. I'm glad you feel better. Have a nice day. And that's it. Walk on. It's really like that simple. So don't get offended. It's pointless. It's a waste of energy. It'll age you quicker than you want to be aged. People
it's very
ask me
true.
all the time. People ask me all the time, like, what's your skincare routine? And I'm like, I don't have one. And they're like, what do you mean you don't have one? Your skin looks great and you look flawless and you don't look 47. You look like you're in your mid 30s. I'm like, learn how to not stress about things that you can't control. Like, you want to stress about things that you have control over. Like, but don't stress about things you have no control over. You have no control over the weather. You have no control over whether or not your car starts in the morning or not. You have no control over who's going to be the president. As much as you want to think you do, you pretty much don't. Like, you have no control about what people think of you. So don't stress about it. Like, you're wasting energy, valuable, good, sane energy on things you can't control. What you can control is how you react and how you respond. That you can control.
Coming back to bathrooms for me has been an area within this space that has personally made me feel uncomfortable, knowing how many pedophiles there are in the community. And I know we've touched on this, but I do want to get your insight and to help me and my own nerves around this is that my own personal fears now with having kids, that someone with the wrong intention dressing up as the opposite sex and walking into a bathroom, which in my view, well, it's a fact that it's a vulnerable space, right? And that could cause harm on my child. I would feel really uncomfortable if I had a man that was dressed as a woman in the toilet with my 3-year-old daughter. I want to hear your viewpoints on having like a large biological male like yourself in
Mhm.
a girl's bathroom with parents sending their children in. How do you feel that we can calm our nerves around that?
So I actually had a gentleman ask me this once. He said, if you were walking into the women's bathroom, and I was standing outside because I was waiting on my daughter, and I asked you if realized that you were a trans woman, and I said, hey, my daughter's in there, would you mind waiting until she came out? He's like, would you wait? I was like, yeah, absolutely, I'd wait. I said, absolutely, I would totally respect that. I said, but here's the thing. I will also do everything I can in my power. Like one of my favorite restaurants that I go to all the time that I'm always posting live from has a single stall bathroom, like, where they have like a big bathroom. So that way you can change your daughters, you change diapers and stuff like that, or you can get a wheelchair in, stuff like that. I try to go to places that have that kind of a bathroom. I do my best. And I also do my best if I can't get to that and I have to use the women's room. I try to go in and like make sure there's very few people in there or nobody in there. And when I walk in, like what makes women feel most uncomfortable is someone that walks in with this feeling of like, I'm trying to hide. I know I don't belong, like, and I'm trying to pretend like nobody can see me. That's when someone gets noticed. When you walk in and you walk right by everybody and you go right into the stall and like people don't even notice you. Like as big as I am, I don't get noticed because I walk in there like I own the place. I walk in there like I belong. Now, turn that around. Let's say your husband is in the boys' room with your daughter or your son, and they're old enough to understand what a boy looks like and what a girl looks like. I walk into the men's room in a nice dress and high heels and all pretty, and I go into the stall, I go to the bathroom, and I come out. That boy is going to be like, Daddy, why is there a girl in the men's room? And now you're put in a position where you have to either explain that it's a man, and now maybe you're having a conversation with your little boy at an age that you don't want to have that conversation. So now you're screwed. Whereas if a trans woman like me walks into the women's room and you're with your daughter or that's of age to understand what a girl looks like, the worst thing that she's possibly going to say is, Mommy, that woman's so big. And you can be like, yeah, she's probably a bodybuilder or a wrestler. And you can just let it go. And you never have to explain that to your daughter. So it's a double-edged sword and it's hard to deal with. Now, the other thing you have to do is think about and do your research. Most people that are going or looking to be child predators, 90% of it is the mother, the father, or a loved one or a family member. Your daughter or your son is more likely to be molested at home than anywhere else on the planet by a loved one. And your pedophiles that are out in public, they're looking for easy targets. So if you don't look like you're an easy target, they're not coming after you at all. And that you do the research because like that's one of the things you want to know is like, okay, how is it that I can prevent this from happening? One, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. There's nothing you can do to prevent it. If somebody targets you and they're going to come after you, they're going to come after you. And unfortunately, the only thing you can do is be as prepared as possible. But then I tell you to do this. Pay attention when you're in public. How many times have you been in public, you yourself, been in public where you thought you were in the restroom with a trans woman? Has
It's
it
only
ever happened?
happened once. It's only happened once.
Okay. And during that time that it happened, did the person come in, use the bathroom and leave?
Yeah, for me, but somebody else was groomed and it then that's what's led me to a lot of fear about it.
Somebody else was groomed?
Yeah, so somebody else that we know was when he was a biological male dressed as a female, went in there and was really inappropriate to her, and therefore then it got larger and he ended up getting kicked out of where we lived at the time, the town.
So it's like anything else. There's always going to be a bad apple, and there's nothing that you can do to prevent that. But the only thing you can do is realize that one bad apple doesn't mean the entire apple farm is disgusting and bad. Because if we had that thought process, right? Are you religious at all? Do you go to church? Okay, but how many people do you know that are religious and go to church?
A
Lots, right?
few.
Right.
Oh, not much. Not
All right.
much.
Well, in the
Most
states, in the states, there's churches everywhere. Okay, but How many times have there been priests and fathers that have molested children? But yet still people go to church. Hundreds of thousands and millions of people still go to church and still trust their children to go into confession booths and to do after school church activities and stuff like that. How many people are there that are black that have robbed stores and killed people? How many people are there that are white that have robbed stores and that have killed people? If you have the mentality, if one did it, they all do it, you would never leave your home for any reason whatsoever. How many parents, how many mothers have molested their children? Lots, more than you can count. How many fathers have molested their children? More than you can count. So then how do you know you're safe with your husband? How do you know that your child's safe with your husband? How does your husband know that his child is safe with you? So with the mentality that you're using, you're now putting yourself in a position where you have to question everything. You understand what I'm saying?
And as a parent, you should, 100%.
Yeah. So if you literally look at the process of like, okay, I'm going to take this one thing and be like, well, this one person did that and they were trans. So now all trans women are this way. Okay, well, this dad molested his son. So now your husband is going to molest your child. So you better divorce him and take him to court, because that's the mentality you have. And you can't have that mentality. It just doesn't work. But people want to polarize situations to make it that way. You understand? It's just like what we talked about earlier with the social media polarizing everything to make you think this is the way it is. What you see on social media or the news is magnified times 1,000, times 100,000, times 1,000,000. And when I go on social media and look at all these like trans people that are acting up, like there's not more than 20 or 30 of them out of a couple million. So they're not all bad apples. So the biggest thing is to start giving people, just like you do in everyday life, the benefit of the doubt to realize that they're a normal human being. But are you going to run into people that are bad? Yeah, in any situation you are. Any type of person can be bad. But if you live that life and that thought process of like, I constantly need to be protecting myself, well, then stay home with your children, homeschool them, have your groceries delivered, and don't leave the house, because that's the lifestyle you're starting to give yourself. You understand what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, you
100%.
you can go out tomorrow with your baby in your hand and get hit by a bus. Does that mean you're not going to go out tomorrow? You got to live your life and just be as protected and as safe and as prepared as you can. And you got to just always remember, there's always somebody bad, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a trans person. That's just who's being highlighted right now. Because I guarantee if you looked at the statistics right now of like, okay, how many children have been abused in the last 6 months in the country that I live in, and who are they abused by? I guarantee you it's not going to be, they were all abused by trans people. That's probably going to be the lowest number, if there isn't even a number. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. When it comes to teenagers transitioning, do you think it should be illegal to have teens starting to take hormones and stuff before they reach 18 or 21?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. 100%. If a teenager cannot smoke cigarettes legally until they're 18, if they cannot sign up for the military legally until they're 18, if they cannot get a tattoo legally until they're 18, why on earth are we letting them mess with their biology, their chemistry, and their genes and their home? Why? Like, where's the level playing field? It's I tell people all the time, it's like I did a video on this once where people were like, I think you should allow trans kids to take hormones. And I'm like, okay, at what age? And they're like, well, pre-puberty, so 10, 8. I'm like, okay, so would you let them join the military? Would you let them drive a car? Would you let that kid smoke cigarettes or get a tattoo? Because everything that I just described is far less than fucking with their hormones. So, like, if you're going to allow them to mess with their hormones at age 10, why not let them drive a car? Why not let them get a tattoo? Why not let them smoke cigarettes or drink alcohol or sign up for the military? Give your 12-year-old an M16 and send him into Iraq. Go for it. Because it's far better option than letting them destroy their hormones. And people are like, oh, well, that's drastically different. No, it's not different. It's the same. And then everything needs to be like in the state of Massachusetts, you can't rent a car until you're 25 years old. You can have your license at 16 and a half, but you cannot legally rent a car until you're 25. Why? You know what I mean? Like, think about it. Why? Well, we don't think they're mature enough to handle a car. So we don't want to rent them to them because the liability is too high. They're more likely to get into accidents. Right, because they make bad decisions and they don't really actually start to develop that smart brain to not make bad decisions until they're about 25, because that's when the prefrontal cortex generally starts to mature fully.
You've stated publicly that biologically only women can have children. Why do you think stating these sort of facts like this sometimes can cause such an emotional reaction from the trans community?
Because the trans community believes that a trans man is a man. And then they go, so men can have babies. Like, no, because that trans man is a biological woman. So therefore, men can't have babies. Only women can. And whether she's a trans man and you want to now call her a man, doesn't matter. She's still a biological woman. And that's why she can have babies.
Has it happened yet? Has a trans of the opposite sex, has it like a biological man carried a baby yet?
I don't think so. A biological man? I don't think so. I think I'm not positive, but I think there is a biological man, one or two, that have tried or is trying to get a uterus like put in them so that way they can carry. I'm sure the science is out there. I'm sure it can probably be done.
What about chest feeding? Because that,
Oh,
yeah,
God, no.
chest.
Thank you. Like, give me a break. Like, I hate all those terms. I hate them with a passion. And I have like so many people in the UK have reached out to me and be like, oh my God, like you're such a breath of fresh air, because like we're not called mothers anymore. We're called birthing people. You know, we can't breastfeed. We're chest feeding. And I'm like,
No,
that's when
we're
it's just,
fucking
well,
mothers that are
yeah,
breastfeeding. God
yes,
given
exactly.
that. It's actually really, I was just thinking about this before, and I might actually insert a photo of me when I was 5. And I grew up with an older brother, and on my street I had 2 boys across the road. So I always called them my brothers too. So it was like 3 older brothers and myself. And I remember one night my mum was had too much to drink and she shaved my hair off. And I thought it was the coolest thing. And there's all these photos of me as a kid just with board shorts on, no shirt on, and a bald head. And then my cousin, we're only 9 months apart, best of friends, and she was the biggest tomboy. And I'll insert a photo here of me and her now compared to me and her when we were growing up, who wanted to be little boys like our brothers. And I often laugh and think I'm so glad we grew up when we did, because no one was affirming us or confusing us. We were the
Yep.
tomboys. And now we're fucking women, birthing women, mothers, breastfeeding mothers who love and embody being a woman and a mother so much. And I often look back and think that, and I'm going to have to dig up some photos because, yeah, it's something I often think about with now. And how do you personally navigate between the reality and gender identity in your own life for like the people listening who truly want to respect and be supportive and don't fully understand? I feel like we've covered this already, but what does genuine support look like to you?
Uh,
Um,
so
yeah,
I look at it like this, like I'm an adult. I'm 46 years old. I don't need your support. I don't need anybody's support. Like, to sit back and like people are like, oh, it's so lucky that you have the support of the trans community. I'm like, one, I don't have the support of the trans community. And two, I don't want it. And nor do I belong to it. And they're like, what do you mean? You're trans. How do you not belong to the trans community? I'm like, my community is my daughter, my family, and my friends. That's my community, period. And I don't need anybody's support. I support my fucking self. Like, I don't need to be supported. I don't need someone to hold me up and be like, you're doing good and you're beautiful and you're like, I don't need support. Like, I'm going to be me, whether I have your support, their support, or anybody's support. I'm going to be me. Like, I don't need it. It's ridiculous. And the concept of that is just insane. Now, do I appreciate being called she, her, and Daviana? Yes, I do. That's appreciated. And I look at it as like, and I get happy. I legitimately get happy when I hear people that have known me for years refer to me as she. It's like, oh yeah, well, they'll be in a conversation with somebody and like someone that's known me for 20 years is be like, well, she did this and she did that and she said this. And I'm like, it warms my heart and it makes me feel good because I'm like, That's so nice to hear. Like someone that's been calling me he and David for so long is now being like she and Daviana. Like I love that. And it makes me feel nice. But at the same time, like when they don't do it, I don't feel negatively about it. It's just normal. And I have just a normal feeling, and to add to your story that you just said about tomboys and shaving, my sister, Stephanie, when she was younger, decided to cut off all of her hair in a bedroom one day. And my grandfather, Papa, she came downstairs. Oh, he came over to see, like my mom called and like, you need to come over and see what your granddaughter just did. And so he literally looked at her and went, Steven! Oh my God. And my sister was like, I'm Stephanie. He goes, no, you're not. You're now Steven. You're a boy. You have a boy's haircut. You're Steven. And it's like, back then that was okay. Now people would be like, oh my God, what did you just do? And then we had a girl in the neighborhood that was like the biggest tomboy. She would come out in like the mesh football jersey with the football in her hand, wrangling up all the boys to play football. And like she would tackle you and knock you down. And she was the biggest tomboy. And then fast forward like 5 years later, she's like 17 years old. We're all at a wedding and in comes walking this gorgeous girl. And like she's the life of the party and she's drop dead gorgeous in this unbelievable dress. And we're like, who's that? It's like, you remember the little girl that used to walk around with the football and kick all your asses? That's her. And it's like, no, no, no way. And like, oh yeah, no, that's her. And like, wow, times have changed. So like, you're a kid, embrace whatever it is you want to embrace and grow up and experience it. And then you'll probably grow out of it. Most people will.
Before we get into our community questions, I have one last question for you. You recently shared that you don't think there needs to be a Pride Month. I feel like you've already covered, but let's tap into that.
I look at it like this, like there was a big fight years ago about accepting gay people. That fight has been won. It's been won. We've accepted people and all that stuff. To have a whole month where we celebrate people's sexuality is ridiculous. Like your sexuality is your business. It shouldn't be my business. It shouldn't be public business. To be walking out and introducing yourself and being like, hi, my name is Daviana. I'm pansexual, antisexual, asexual, demisexual, and bisexual. Like, the hell do I give a shit what you are? Like, I just met you. Shut the fuck up. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm not here asking you your sexuality. And like,
Yeah.
I don't want like, why is there pride? Like someone said this to me the other day, and it's like, I'm like, not for nothing. I said, but like, my daughter loves to draw two things. She loves to draw hearts. She loves to draw rainbows. But if she goes to school with a rainbow shirt on, or she's out in the park with a rainbow shirt on, some other person is going to think, oh, well, she must be gay, or her parents are gay. And it's like, your kid can't even wear the fucking rainbow without someone thinking that, oh, she must support gay people. Like, excuse me, I want the fucking rainbow back. Like, you don't deserve it as a people. Like, no rainbow flags, no trans flags, no friggin' Pride Month. I'm sorry. To me, it's all stupid. And before it was Pride Month, it was Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. That's what it was before it became Pride Month. And if you look into the depths of men's mental health, it is the worst. It completely outdoes all other bad mental health. Women's mental health, trans mental health, gay mental health. Men's mental health is the worst it's ever been in decades. We need to have more awareness for that than anything else, period. And people are like, well, listen to you, look at you. Like, clearly you have men's mental health. And it's like, no, I'm actually quite mentally stable. But, uh, but yeah, no, I don't. Pride Month to me is just ridiculous. Like, people are like, hey, what are you doing for Pride Month? I'm like, what's Pride Month? They're like, oh, this month is. I'm like, no, it's not. It's Men's Mental Health Month. Like, just shut up. Get out of my face.
I think as a mum, you just see these things in such a different way. Like Pride, having kids, it was like, yeah, we need to be more supportive to the gay community. And then when I became a mum and I saw how much it's at kids' eye levels and pushed onto kids, did become concerning. But I have found that anytime I've gone to speak about my concerns, you get attacked, like
Mhm.
absolutely attacked and ridiculed. And I think then it's become quite scary. So I feel like I have learned a lot off you on how I can navigate. And like you said, have my back in that, have my back in the concerns. But no, you can, I'm supportive of if who you want to be with, who you want to love, who you want to marry. However, let's just keep it away from kids. There doesn't need to be the confusion. Like, kids already are asking so many questions. They are figuring it all out. And like, to add to that confusion, like, I can't imagine the amount of times my little girl has asked me questions. And in that moment, I've thought, fuck, if I could easily confuse her right now, where it's like, no, you're a girl, you have a vagina, a boy, you have a penis. And there's a lot of videos I've come across on social media that have said, when your children ask this, you say you can be whatever you want to be. Like, you don't have to.
You don't.
And and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And I think that has what has given the I guess the hate towards the trans community. So when I came across your page and I was like, fuck yeah, I love this person. You're a breath of fresh air. I really love what you got to say. And we're coming up to 2 hour mark. So I'm going to jump into the community questions.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, here's one. Would it have made a difference to your life outcomes now if the world was what it is now when you were a child? Would you have felt encouraged to change genders or liberated to be who you are today?
Can't answer that question. So people ask me questions like this all the time. And my answer is it's an unanswerable question because you're asking me a what if. And you're asking me a what if on something that I have no control of from a time frame that's gone. So I can't actually answer that question. And anybody that can answer that question, it's a figment of their imagination. It's not a real solid answer. There's no legitimate answer to that question. And to answer it would be just, no matter what my answer was, it would just be adding to the confusion.
You did say earlier on, though, that you don't regret the way it's all came out and you feel it's best that you began your transition at 46 because your brain's fully developed. You are emotionally intelligent, emotionally mature, and you know what you're doing. And so I feel like that we need to tie that into that as well, because you are quite happy with where you're at and the journey you've been on, regardless of the hard times that you faced.
Correct. Yes. So like, I mean, with that being said, like, again, it's still the same answer. There is no answer, because to turn around and be like, well, what if it was different when you were younger? But it wasn't. So I can't answer that question. I'm happy with where my life is and how it got here. Whatever that is, it is. Am I happy that people are more free to express themselves? Yes. Am I happy that people are starting to understand that some people do feel like they were born in the wrong body? Yeah, I am. But do I think it's something that needs to be monitored, like we've already discussed, and only allowed to happen at a certain age? Yes, I do. So had it been different for me growing up, I can't answer that question, because I can only give you an answer based on what I lived, and I'm happy with the outcome.
Okay, we've got another question here. If you keep your dick and are attracted to women, are you not a transvestite rather than a trans lesbian?
Okay, so a lot of people get all these terms. So there's so many terms today that it's ridiculous. So for instance, like transgender, we used to call transgender people transvestites. They changed it to transgender because it just sounds nicer. Okay. Now, whether I'm a lesbian or not doesn't matter, because the bottom line is whether I keep my dick or not, the bottom line is I'm still a biological male. So does it make me a lesbian? Technically, no.
No.
Makes me a straight man, whether I have a dick or I don't.
Yep. Yep. I
So
like that
like
answer.
people ask me all the time, like, so are you a lesbian now? I'm like, if I'm a
No.
biological man, how can I be a lesbian? I mean, I understand your point. Like, if you wanted to cater to my gender ideologies, then technically, yes, I'm a lesbian. And like, I've even joked about it with some people. I'm like, think of it this way. I'm a lesbian that has their own built-in strap-on. And a lot of women are like, you're the best of both worlds. Like, you look feminine, you have boobs, you have that nice demeanor, and you have a dick. And I'm like, yep, makes me the best of both worlds, I guess. I don't know. I
Okay.
tell people it's pro pickle.
A lot of people that have just written in very excited for this episode. Did she always have that mindset of looking like a woman versus being a woman? What shaped it?
Yes, I've always had the mindset of wanting to be a woman. Always, always, always. So, like, it started when I was 6, and like when my parents would leave the house, or like whenever I had a moment where I knew I could like sneak up to my mom's room, I would put on like her skirts, I would put on her nylons, like I would like anything you can think of, I would do it. And I wouldn't do it. And like a lot of people be like, "Oh, you're autogonophilia because you just did it because it was sexually arousing to you." And I was like, "No, like I didn't get excited doing it. Like I put them on and I looked at myself in the mirror, and I was, I liked the way I looked. I liked the way the nylons felt. I wanted to be and feel like a woman felt, like wearing knee-high boots, wearing high heel shoes, wearing nylons, because like that was big back then. Women wore thigh-high nylons a lot. Like so, like I love wearing thigh-high nylons because that was what I was exposed to as a kid. Like and like on the times where like I couldn't go into my mom's room and put on a skirt, I would put on my basketball shorts with both feet and one leg and turn it around so I could look at the butt side of it and be like, "Oh yeah, look at my bum." And then I would turn it around this way so the extra pant was in the back and I would see the flatness out front and be like, "Yeah, I like this." Like I always wanted to be this way. And even through my time like having girlfriends, and even when I was in the Marine Corps, like I would sneak certain clothes that I would try to try on during like when people didn't know, like, and I had a girlfriend once who had a shoe size that was close to mine. And when she wasn't home, I would try on her shoes, try on her clothes, try on her outfits if I fell into them. I never stopped. Like it was always there. It was never going away. No matter how hard I tried, it would never go away.
Another person has asked, did anything happen to you that was quite disturbing during your childhood?
I never had any sexual assault or anything like that, where a lot of people would think that's where this stems from and stuff like that. I had your typical, like, growing up in the 80s with a stern, very stern parent, where there was a lot of what people would call now would be crazy abuse. Um, and I didn't really process that abuse until I got much older. Um, and like, I don't think that caused any kind of feeling like this whatsoever. And I've gone
Well,
through plenty of therapy for it.
Well, Daviana, this episode has been fucking epic. I've enjoyed every single minute and I've learned so much. So thank you so much for your time today and staying up late to chat with us. And thank you to the person here listening for tuning in right to the end. Before you go, I just want to ask you to please send this episode to 3 people. The more ears we can reach, the more I'm able to get people on the show and grow this platform. And if you haven't already, leave us a review wherever you're listening from. I'll see you next week at Align Yourself Podcast.